Board of Commissioners, roll call, please.
Jebin Singh,
Here.
McGuire,
Here.
McMurtry,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Moran,
Here.
Zhang,
Here.
and Ortega.
Aye. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Land acknowledgement, Commissioner Jebin Singh.
Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We are standing on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people. We want to acknowledge the Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk, and the other nations of people who also called this place home. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the treaties made by the tribal nations that entitle non-Native people to live and work on traditional Native lands. Consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public event.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda of April 22nd, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Jebin Singh,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
McMurtry,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Zhang,
Aye.
and Ortega.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes of April 15th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Hearing no discussion, roll call.
Jebin Singh,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
McMurtry,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Zhang,
Aye.
and Ortega.
Aye. Proclamation Administrative Professional Day. Commissioner Moran.
Do we have any Ramsey County administrators who want to come and join me? Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioner. I am honored to be able to present this proclamation this morning on behalf of Ramsey County administrators in recognizing today as Administrative Professional Day with a proclamation. I'd just like to start with a couple of notes that I have about these awesome people that you see behind me. Administrative professionals don't just support the work, they move it forward. Every department, service, and resident interaction relies on their expertise, organization, and leadership. They are an integral part of the county's success. They are the backbone of operations. From coordinating schedules to managing complex workflows, administrative professionals ensure the right people have the right information at the right time. They create efficiencies that allow Ramsey County to function at its best. Leadership isn't just about a title, it's about the impact. Administrative professionals lead daily by anticipating the needs, solving problems before they arise, I like that, and ensuring that works get done efficiently, effectively, and on time. Leadership. When residents engage with Ramsey County, it's often an administrative professional who is the first voice they hear and the first face they see. The first interaction sets the tone for the entire experience, and professionalism and care makes all the difference in creating positive impressions. They are the invisible force behind the scene, ensuring that smooth operation, making system work, and providing stability. Administrative professionals enable colleagues and leaders to perform their roles effectively. This week isn't just about appreciation, it's about recognition. Recognition that without administrative professionals, Ramsey County wouldn't operate the way it does. Their contributions are foundational to our success. To all Ramsey County employees and leaders, take the time to acknowledge the administrative professionals around you. Recognize their leadership, expertise, and their ability to make things happen behind the scenes. The Ramsey County Board of Commissioners is proud, it's very proud, to proclaim April the 21st through the 25th this week as Administrative Professional Week, with April the 23rd, 2025 as National Administrative Professional Day. But let's be clear, their contributions deserve recognition every single day. So looking ahead, Ramsey County is about hosting a county-wide conference for administrative professionals in October. The theme of the conference is Building Resilience in the Face of Change, which will focus on empowering administrative professionals like they need more empowering, right? It's about empowering administrative professionals with the tools to continue embracing change, to manage stress and uncertainty, and fostering adaptabilities in their roles. And so we proclaim today, I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas Ramsey County is strengthened by over 400 dedicated full and part-time administrative professionals who serve in every department across the county, 5 integral service teams, ensuring seamless operations and fostering meaningful connections with residents. And whereas administrative professionals are the first point of contact for countless residents, offering guidance, support, and solutions with unwavering professionalism and a genuine commitment to service. And whereas their vital professional work tirelessly behind the scene, delivering unmatched efficiency, driving innovation, and upholding the highest standard of excellence, all while ensuring that every corner of the county remains responsive and resident-focused. And whereas administrative professionals are appreciated not only by Ramsey County residents, but also by their colleagues, managers, supervisors, department heads, and, should I say, that's not in here, commissioners, who recognize and value their professional skills, standards of excellence, collaborative abilities, compassionate spirit, and many other daily contributions that enhance the workplace. And whereas, in the face of constant change, administrative professionals exemplify remarkable resilience, embracing challenges as opportunities to grow, innovate, and push the boundaries of what is possible in service to the community. And whereas administrative professionals demonstrate exceptional adaptability, approaching each challenge with curiosity, flexibility, and a solution-oriented mindset, ensuring that Ramsey County remain agile and able to meet the evolving needs of its residents. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declared April the 23rd, 2025 as Administrative Professional Day and April the 21st through the 25th of 2025 as Administrative Professional Week to honor the invaluable contribution, resilience, and dedication of administrative professionals to the success of Ramsey County. Congratulations. Let's give them. Who should I give this to? Okay. Is I'm up here to say something?
I don't know what to say. My name is Joyce Darby, and I'm an administrative professional. I worked for Ramsey County over 20 years. I retired, came back, and I'm still here. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your service. Go ahead.
Introductions, pictures.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Go ahead.
Introductions.
My name is Clemens Farino. I'm an administrative planning assistant with the chief clerk's team.
My name is Ka Cheng. I'm also an administrative planning assistant on the chief clerk's team.
I'm Jackie Sakura, and I'm also an administrative planning assistant on the chief clerk's team.
Good morning. My name is Laura Benson. I'm an administrative assistant, public health in the administration division.
I already said this. Except for, I'm in the Aging and Disability Department. Joyce Darby.
Good morning. I'm Sharonda Nix. I am a paralegal in the Civil Department.
Good morning, Amber Solar. I work in the Office of Health and Wellness.
Good morning. I'm Jessie Fasciana, and I work in financial assistance services as an admin assistant senior.
Good morning, Chris Kiefler, Admin Assistant to Deputy County Manager Karen Francois.
Good morning, my name is Maggie Sukup, and I am the Administrative Assistant to County Manager Becker.
Thank you all for all your good work. We're well aware of your value because you keep us organized. So thank you so much for all you do for us. Have a great day.
Let's do a picture.
Wait a minute, we want to take a picture.
Yes, I was going to say, we got to go. We're going to have to go silent.
You get to take it.
Thank you all so much. Administrative agenda.
I move the following administrative items. Number 4, amendment to single source professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. for Phase 1 of the Bruce Ventil Regional Trail Final Design and Construction Administration. Item 5, grant award from the Metropolitan Council for 2024 Legacy Amendment Parks and Trails Fishing Piers Grant Program. And number 6, Teresa Marie Schnell, trustee for the next of kin of Dylan Dean Bakke, descendant, court file number 023CV 02655 KMMJFD.
Second.
Hearing no discussion, roll call.
Jebin Singh,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
McMurtry, Miller,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Zhang,
Aye.
and Ortega.
Aye. Before we continue, I'd like to make a brief comment on the settlement item that the board just approved. We hope that the resolution of this case will bring some closure and healing to the Mr. Bakke's family. Over the past few months, as part of the Ramsey County's ongoing commitment to prioritizing the health, safety, and well-being of every individual at the Adult Detention Center, the county manager initiated a cross-departmental collaborative team to identify and implement continuous improvements within our correctional facilities. This group brings together leaders and subject matter experts from multiple county departments, including public health, along with the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. This effort reflects our shared responsibility to provide caring, responsive, and trauma-informed environments for those in our care, as well as to support the staff who serve in these difficult, critical roles every day. I am appreciative of the work moving forward and look forward to working with the county manager and this board
on this topic. Now, can we move on to our presentation?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Joining me today in presentation will be Chief of Staff Maria Sarabia, as well as Alex Kutza, the interim Deputy County Manager for Health and Wellness. We're going to be covering the topic around our federal response, as well as the state pressures on our county budget this morning. So needless to say, we're working in a time of really unprecedented change and demands. Our work's being impacted by a variety of pressures, as nearly 30% of our county budget comes from intergovernmental revenues. So since the beginning of the year, we've been working collaboratively as a county leadership group to begin assessing and positioning ourselves to respond to the federal executive orders, as well as the impacts that they have on our work. While these orders, some have been challenged in court, others have caused direct work stoppages. It is important that we take some time with the board today to share broadly about the things and the work that we've been doing. So first of all, I'd like to cover this concept of prism of impacts. The different things happening at the federal government have different ways that they're impacting our community. The most obvious is the fiscal impacts that are directly extracting resources out of our community directly to Ramsey County. And those could be funds that we are directly receiving as a county. And so one example is most recently, we did receive a work stoppage on a public health COVID-19 grant. Another way to understand some of these impacts on our community is also the indirect funds impact. And recently, we did share, and I think it's later in the slide as well, but we did share a dashboard that the state of Minnesota has set up through the MMB that talks a bit about the various infrastructure impacts of funding that have been impacted through federal executive orders. And so those transportation projects, while not coming directly to the county, they have indirect impacts, even though they're actually going to other state entities, they're going to cities, they might be going to Met Council, but they're all still disinvestments into our community. And then the last one, which I think is really important for us to uplift, is the collateral impacts of some of these orders. And those are impacts that are happening kind of more broadly into our work. And that could mean reductions in federal staff, for example. So as people hear about things happening, for example, in the Department of Veteran Affairs at the federal level, if they're reducing their staff complements and changing the way they're doing work at a federal level, it does have some indirect impacts or collateral impacts on the way our team is able to process things for veterans that live in Ramsey County. In addition, some of you might have heard that there's been some data extraction and elimination from federal portals. Those also have collateral impacts because we use that data as we think about the way we do our work, whether it's applying for grants, whether it's thinking about how we prioritize resources for our community and support our nonprofits or other partners. And then I think the last two are important to recognize as well, the collateral impacts of demoralizing public service at this time. I think as an organization with 4,000 employees who work hard every day to ensure that residents get what they need, the tenor of the federal orders and the impacts on what's being kind of spoken about really does have a intangible impact on people trying to work every day to help our residents. And then just the ongoing trauma and harm that these conversations and the lack of clarity creates on the community. And so I think it's important as we get into more of Maria's presentation to talk about the direct funding, we also remember these other two areas of indirect and collateral impacts as we talk to others about the things happening to our community. So with that, I'm going to invite Maria up to do the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, County Manager. Good morning, Chair and Board. In the
My name is Maria Sarabia. I serve as the Chief of Staff. So in this slide, you'll see this is a snapshot of what the state has released under Governor Walz through MMB, is my understanding. And this is an estimation, and they're doing their own internal tracking on better understanding for the whole state, the implications of some of these federal actions. We know that the funding that helps us run as a state comes from oftentimes taxes, licenses, fees, and then grants. Our understanding is that 35% of the current state budget is comprised of federal grants, totaling around $42 billion for a 2-year budget. And I won't read the whole slide, but I want folks to know that this is out there, and I believe we've sent it, and if we can resend this so everybody can have access and have familiarity with this resource. It's something that we also try to keep a track on within the county system. And just as a reminder, in terms of the federal grant life cycle, we know that we get funds from any various federal agency, and we'll have an example of the certain federal agencies that have trickle-down fundings for us. And the state is often a pass-through, and so what happens at the state level is going to deeply impact what happens at the county level. Whether there's state layoffs, which we've seen at the Minnesota Department of Health and our regular contacts, or there's just infrastructure changes and different programming changes, that impacts the way we do work in certain areas across the county, which again impacts our staff and sort of our administrative processes, but also our goods and services and those that we contract with, including small community-based organizations and vendors, as well as long-standing vendors that help with our infrastructure. When funding interruption happens, and it really impacts how we're able to do our work. And moreover, our residents, our communities, our families then may face certain challenges because we're not able to do the work in the way in which we're used to doing it and the way in which meets their needs. And so here's a little bit of a busy slide, but this is a snapshot to show you some of the infrastructure we've been doing within the agency. And I want to just call out compliments and kudos to the Chief Compliance and Ethics Officer who's taking this on, as well as our government relations staff who's trying to keep track and corral all the different moving parts of the information. But also with the county manager's vision and her boldness in trying to help us stay firm-footed during times of uncertainty, we stood up this Federal Response Action Team. And if I could just break down a little bit what happens is we have frontline staff, grant coordinators, and administrators who maybe are trying to draw down certain funds or submit for reimbursement, and they may get a pop-up, or there may be some barrier that prevents them from doing the work in the way that we usually would do it, or we get emails either from a state agency or directly from the Fed saying, pause, we need to review this, or hey, this has been interrupted. And so when that happens, we need to have a proper response. As you know, being the county that we are, we want to ensure that we have the right players at the table. So it's including IS, the compliance area, finance, the county attorney's office, human resources, communications, government relations, and then I'm playing key in tapping in from the county manager's office, where I also am holding a group of department heads, because really at the end of the day, we need to ensure that the department heads have an understanding of what's happening. We don't want to be overreactive, and we want to have a holistic, integrated sort of response. And this is, if it happens once, it'll likely happen again. So we want to make sure that we're crossing all of our T's and dotting our I's in terms of thoroughness and accuracy. And we also listed some of the departments that may be impacted. This is our projection and our estimation, and it impacts the entire enterprise and the county system across our service teams. And as County Manager Becker had mentioned, this has already occurred in public health. And we have some reviews happening in other departments, such as social services, around federal dollars that provide supports and programming for mental health services. So the intent behind this is to be proactive, to monitor, track, make sure that we're coordinated across the system, and then establish clear decision. We don't want one-off ways in which we're responding to this. We need to have coordination. And so this is a big accomplishment. It takes a lot of coordination and planning and thoughtfulness. Just to go into a little bit in terms of the funding, this data is an estimation. It was pulled from our fiscal systems in February and trying to better track our various federal awards. Our understanding is that we have 96 active grants towards $150 million. Here you'll see also in terms of how that's broken up, our current status of the awards. And again, kudos to the staff who are leading this. Kim Closey is one of the key persons who's helping us gather this information. But in terms of the breakdown of federal funding, if you see the two slides, the dark blue is what we've spent, and then the purple is what is remaining for either us to spend or to be reimbursed or to draw down. And we're looking at that as well as just direct pass-throughs. The proportion that's direct pass-throughs is in the purple slide, you'll see towards 30 million there, and then we have, that's direct, and then we have the pass-through, which is at the 120 orange portion of the visual. And in terms of the direct,
Excuse me.
sure, yes.
Commissioner Singh?
Yes, I just have a question on the what's yet to be spent or reimbursable. There's some of these funds we incur the costs and then are reimbursed after the fact. I'm just curious if we have a breakdown of how much we've already reimbursed or how much we've already spent. But have there been any pauses or holds on the reimbursement, or have we had any stoppages in being reimbursed for things costs we've already incurred?
Thank you for that question, Chair. Commissioner, we can get more detailed information on what is actually needing to be reimbursed. I will say, just late Friday, we had a notice of review, which is a different term. And there's different legal terms that are being used, and that's why we lean heavily on our county attorney's office to make sure that we're deciphering and discerning exactly what the meaning is in that context. And so we were called in for a review for $170,000, I believe, in the Social Services Department. We're making sure that we're having our accurate response. However, that review signaled to us, it came directly from DOJ, and there was a federal message that we can share more context in one-on-ones, but it was a message that stated, we need to review this. It didn't say stop, it didn't say cancel. There was a certification term that was also used that we want to have a better understanding on what that means. And so we have our attorneys looking at that and making sure that we have a timely response. However, shortly thereafter, we did get the reimbursement. I think Monday morning maybe. And so it's a little bit uncertain and kind of sporadic, but we're doing our best to make sure that we're all talking to each other and being holistic in how we respond, because we imagine this will happen again from a different source.
I have Karis and then Mary Jo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to get just clarification so I'm understanding between the difference between temporary disruption and cancellation. When we look at the permanent cancellation, that means that money is completely frozen. The state will not be able to access that money, the $300 million in particular.
Chair, Commissioner, that is our understanding, and the nuances, certain things are being contested in court proceedings, and so we're in a holding pattern depending on how that plays off. But according to the processes, yes, canceled means the funding is no longer available to us.
Gotcha. So one quick follow-up. So of the list that you have, the chart with the direct and pass-through funds, of the 120 million, is that money through the funds that were canceled, or is that funds that were going through temporary disruption, or a mix of both?
This is our entire portfolio of federal fundings, and we didn't break this down in terms of what's been stopped or canceled or under review at this time.
Gotcha.
Sorry. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mary Jo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't know when to ask this question. I could wait till the end of the presentation, but it's sort of the big context of, do we get the sense that they're finding buzzwords and then they're sending, notes that we're reviewing this, like they go through all the grant, like they have this data system and they're going, it's chaotic, just to recognize that it's chaotic how they're doing this, but it appears to me as though they're going through data and finding words that they don't like, and then do they send notes to people? So we get this review notice not knowing why it's being reviewed, because maybe there was a word, maybe equity was in the word or something, and then they review it, but then they don't do anything about it. Do you get that? Do we have a sense of what's of any semblance of any reasons of why they're doing this, or do you have any ideas?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner. I can feel my attorney looking at me.
Yes, I know. Okay,
And I don't
so
want to make
say
any
anything.
assumptions or presumptions.
Yeah.
We've heard rumors of that, but we have no
Yeah.
confirmation that that's what's happening.
Okay. And then do we get the sense that they're paying attention to legal issues, that they're doing things that they care whether it's legal or not? Do we have any sense of that?
Commissioner, Chair, Commissioner, I'm not in a position to
I'm
respond
sure
to
you're
that.
not. Yeah, right. Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
trust your
it's
judgment, though, as my elected
It's
official.
just an indication. I so appreciate all this work that we're doing, and we need to do it. And it's just an indication of really how chaotic it is and how really I'm trying to figure out the right words to use. Dangerous, traumatic. This is for the entire country that this is happening to to everyone. But
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Singh, then.
So the question I have as a follow-up on that is I know that there are different entities who are contesting some of the executive orders and some of these particular stoppages in court. When there is litigation pending, do we have a particular policy as to whether we are proceeding with using the funds, with the hopes that the court system will, bring it back to whatever had been in place before and will eventually get reimbursed, or is our policy to halt and to not put ourselves in that position of expending costs that will not be reimbursed in the future? I'm just curious as to if we've established an ongoing way of handling that.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner. That is our hopes of standing this infrastructure up, because we would need to measure the risk, do some analysis, consult with our legal team, and discern whether or not that's a decision we would make. And at this time, we haven't been in a position to be able to make such a decision.
So this is a proactive engagement so that if and when that happens, we're in a position to discern what's the best way to go forward, whatever the case may be.
That's correct. And to this moment, we want to be in full compliance with our federal authority, and therefore we have our Chief Compliance Officer leading this effort, and we have very intentional and strategic connections with our county attorneys. If we're told to stop, we are governed in a way in which we would need to stop. And any other movement beyond that would be consultation likely with the board, with our attorneys, and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got Commissioner Shunk, but before that, from Mike Shunk, I think we're on the right path, because what we're really trying to do is not figure out whether issues are going to be in the courts, whether they're going to be overturned, regardless of all of that, which is still important, but we need to operate the county.
Yeah.
And so this is
Right.
about how do we prepare ourselves to, under the worst case scenario, operate and bring service to our folks. So it's sort of building up, so we have a baseline of knowledge, all of us, to then make those decisions down the road. The one question I do have, though, to be honest with you, I think the federal government is, 1 week is this, the next week it's that. But with the state, do we have a clear indication? Because the legislative budget has been put out, right?
It's in process.
It's in process. So do we have a sense of, to me, that's going to be at least one of the factors that we could put to bed if we know exactly what those targets are, how much we're going to be hit by cuts. So I'm just wondering if we have any sense of where that's heading, or
Chair Ortega, I will say that we're tracking, that is a compression point for us, not only what's happening at the federal level, but also going through session and what's happening at the state legislature. We know with the current state budget and the governor's proposal that would be very profound impacts on Ramsey County. Our calculations define that $2.5 million in 2025, $3.9 million in 2026, $17.8 million in 2027, could equate to an increase in our levy if we were to pass the budget within the marks that the governor has proposed. There's work happening for that yet to be played out. But as it currently stands, we know that the proposed governor's budget would impact Ramsey County significantly and impact our residents and create more cost burden on taxpayers.
Are there any projected, or at least from the legislative side, that might be different than the governor's budget, where we might be facing cuts in a different place?
Chair Ortega, that's in process now, is my understanding, and I could possibly get more insights if you'd want us to bring more folks up, or if you wanted us to go through slides and then discuss that more towards the end. And I think we have some slides coming up where our interim health and wellness service team deputy county manager is going to be talking about some of those cost shares and shifting that would happen to the county and some possibilities that would help us out a little bit.
Okay. Mary Jo?
Yeah, and just on that,
Oh,
I know
I'm
that
sorry,
Commissioner
Rachel,
Jean wants
what's
to say
next?
something, but yeah, I would just comment on that in particular.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to go back to the sources of direct awards on slide 10 here. These are awards that have been allocated to the county, whether that be passed through and also assigned, basically, right?
That's correct.
Is there a role, or it sounds like, there's conversations along with the county attorney's office as well, too, about like what the county can do, because these are essentially grants that were given, executed, and signed, given to the county.
That's Chair Ortega, Commissioner Zhang, that is my understanding as well. And my understanding is that that would have to be played out in courts. We do know that our county attorney's office is working in lockstep with our attorney general at the state level for some of these legal proceedings that would, but that's outside of the operations and the mechanics of sort of how we're trying to administer programs and run the county. But we could definitely get more insights.
And second question, Mr. Chair, is going back to the Federal Response Action Team grid here, or the org chart, how much time have we allocated to trying to figure this all out?
Chair Ortega, Commissioner Zhang, it has been a bit of a heavy lift, but I think very fulfilling, because it has created an opportunity for our department heads to come together and know that we as an executive team and key partners in areas listed on this chart are needing to be having coordination. And so it is a significant amount of time, and we think we don't have an alternative option at this point. We want to be prepared and be responsive, but I would say it is several hours out of each week that different folks are tapped in different ways in doing preparation, whether it's data pulling, manual tracking, submitting forms, creating PowerPoints, setting up meetings. It's significant.
Mm-hmm. And my question around that too is just the amount of time, is that as we're spending time trying to figure this all out, we are not putting time into delivering and maximizing services to residents, right? And or like thinking about a whole, about like focusing on the county, on how do we increase our and make sure that we have a thriving businesses, but corridors, and make sure that we are trying to reduce the levy. I just want to say that last year our conversations were around trying to get the state to support to increase CPA, but this year the conversation is not even that at all. It's not even on the table, right? And the questions that I hear from residents again and again is just like, what are we doing to decrease the levy? And right now, we don't even have a good response to that. So it's just very unfortunate that we have to spend this amount of time in staff capacity just to respond to grants or figuring out solutions to a problem that's being created at the federal level.
Thank you, Commissioner Ortega. Chair, I would say the purpose of standing this up is so that it's leveled up executive and senior leaders so that staff can know that we're trying to adapt and be agile and responsive so that they are not distracted from their day-to-day work, but that they know that these efforts are in place, if that's any consolation.
No, you guys are doing your best, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Commissioner Sean. I mean, we are now focused on this instead of other issues that are critical to our communities. But at the same time, we need to have the staff. This is just like we're preparing, the staff needs to put their hands around some of this stuff, and you know, it's like a rehearsal, like a warm-up before a game, and so it's important that staff is grappling with all of these issues, and so kudos to the staff and to your work for doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to comment on your previous, the previous things that we were talking about with the legislature. We know that they're going to pass a budget that may be different than the governor, but also they're also reserving the right to come back in the fall because they actually don't know. The governor doesn't know, the legislature doesn't know the impact of the cuts that the federal government is making, and so they will. The sense is that they're going to pass a budget, but reserving the right to come back if things change. And it's I'm so grateful that we're doing this at a board meeting because it's really an education on how the impacts of what the federal and state do impacts us and our property taxpayers, because as the federal government thinks they're saving money, they're just passing it on to the states, who's passing it on to us. And so our property taxpayers are going to bear the brunt of any of these savings that they say they're going to have, which they're not going to have because they're just passing it down to each level of government. Rather than ask, you know, what we've been traditionally wanting is more county program aid from the legislature because we know best how to use the resources, and that reduces our levy. It's a direct reduction on levy as our county program aid. Right now, they're talking about decreasing county program aid because they have to balance their budget, and they only can do so many things. They've already cut our public safety. They've already cut our probation funding. They're cutting so many. You know, they're not giving us what we need in all of these areas, and now they're going to actually look at not giving us the county program aid we need, and so it's really it's not a great way to operate government, and of course every level just wants to pass it down, and we have nowhere else to go but to our taxpayers. So we're going to keep seeing this, and I'm so grateful that we're going to be getting reports like this. It's unfortunate that we have to have staff spending time doing this because we would rather have them be, you know, doing the work of the county, but this is really important to do, and we have to do it. And we're letting our state and federal partners know that this is happening. We're sending this information to our Association of Minnesota Counties, our National Association, because they're fighting on behalf of all counties with our legislature and with our Congress. So we're all hands on deck trying to impress upon our policymakers that this is really drastic, that the cuts that they're doing. But thank you.
Thank you. Well, the main focus, we will, in speaking with the county manager, we're going to try and have more presentations like this at the board meeting as a sort of ongoing basis, just for us to keep cohesive and nimble and so forth. And, the goal here again is, we know the environment is helter-skelter, but it's about how do we prepare ourselves to make those decisions? That's the goal, regardless whose fault it is and what's going on. We gotta make sure Ramsey County operates and serves our community. But continue. I know we're taking your time, but
thank you, Commissioner. So you'll see here, these are the examples and listings of agencies at the state level in which we get our federal funding, and at the levels as well as the amounts that have been awarded, as well as what is the remaining balance for us to spend. And you can see that MDH is a significant a department that impacts our area, as well as DHS. And we can see this if we go to the next slide. These are where the funds from different entities land within the county system. And you will see public health is a big receiver of federal funding, as well as workforce solutions, public works, community economic development, and social services. If we go here, this is a breakdown, just an example of a couple of service teams and the amounts within the departments and the types of programming. And so you will see that certain housing funding is impacted. You will see Parks and Recs is listed here with not as much of an impact, but also Public Works and Workforce Solutions and Property Management. Again, just a splattering of how we kind of put together our budgets at the department level. And Health and...
Excuse me, I have two commissioners,
Yes.
Garrison and Tara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really quick question. On the pass-through agencies, what's under other?
That is a good question. I can circle back with staff and make sure we get that answered.
Awesome. And for my own clarification, for the balance, the amount that's still the balance that we have, is this money still available, or is it also up in the air whether or not that those funds are still available?
The funding that is part of the balance, our hopes is that it would remain available. And our budgets and our program plans are designed to spend all of the funding that's allocated. But it could be vulnerable, is our estimation as well.
The question that I have has to do with, I mean, I'll just put it in real simple terms. We've all had to balance a family budget, right? And if all of a sudden somebody is laid off, your income may be cut in half. And you have to make decisions on what are the things that are fixed costs that we have to pay every month. The mortgage, the car payment, basic groceries, insurance, right? And then you have the things that you know are healthy for a family to invest in, you know, the music lessons and the sports for your kids and the other kind of things, scouting or whatever. And then you realize, even though those are really great investments, for now we're going to have to pull back and only focus on the things that are essential. When we look at the programs that are pass-throughs, these particular dollars, how many of these are essential services that we are mandated or expected or required to do, and how much of this is more on the great to do, how we love to do business, what our residents expect as a quality of life, but maybe aren't the mortgage, so to speak. I'm just curious. I want to know, you know, should this come to pass, what are the actual must-dos as a proportion to some of these funds?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner Jebin Singh. That's the analysis that we're doing, and that's why we've collected this information. And we don't have a breakdown of that at this time. I would also add, so the example that happened last Friday, it's mental health services. We know that our communities direly need mental health. We know certain populations are struggling. We have the data. It's evidence-based on why that is. At the same time, in terms of the requirement of doing it, these are things that we have to grapple with and do more analysis with.
And I anticipate that some of those will be policy decisions that will have to fall on the responsibility coming, you know, to the not only program leaders in the county manager's office, but also ultimately, you know, for us to make some of those decisions. So I would just encourage through that analysis to continue to inform us on those when very critical decisions have to be made as far as, you know, those kind of decisions. I think we all want to act in making the best decisions versus the least worst decisions. But if we fall into that place, we don't want you to have to do that alone. And ultimately to make sure that we're weighing in if big decisions have to be made.
Thank you.
Just a little note before I go on. Even with mandated services, the state might require us a certain level, but we might have move to a different level. So even with mandated services, there could be service cuts as a possibility, anyway.
And I think that's
Just
what
a note.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to clarify that, not only for ourselves, but our staff and our residents as to what decisions are being made and how tight to the bone we have to go.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate this conversation, all these conversations. I was at a community foundation meeting last night, and we give money to the community, and we're trying to, operate in this uncertain time and say, well, we have to figure out, what, as cuts are happening at every level, and families are not getting what they need, and it came up about food insecurity. And we've stood up now a food insecurity division, but I'm not sure that, we're supposed to provide for health and welfare of our residents. I'm not sure we have a law that says we have to, provide for security of food. But this is something we feel like we have to do. It's like just such a basic, but I'm not sure we're gonna find any mandate to help people get food. And so this is just it's gonna be just one of these really tough things where we know what helps with people, we know what gives people, what helps people thrive and survive. And we're gonna have to be faced with those decisions. So it was just such an awareness to me that we're like, you're right, something like food security. I have another question, and a lot of people have asked me this question about, why don't we just draw down all the money now? I actually think I know the answer, but they said, well, if we got a grant, let's just get it into our bank account so that we don't have to worry about whether the feds are gonna release it or not. And so I know there's reasons why they don't do this, and I think some of it is as a pass-through, it's as needed, and this is a year-long grant, so we're not drawing down for the months to come because it's an as used. Yes. You have to do it as you use it. It's not, you don't get the lump sum. It's not a grant that's made up that way. So is there any other comments that you want to make? But I'm guessing that's the reason, is that the grants are just not designed that you can take the whole lump sum. You have to draw it down as you use it.
Chair, Commissioner McGuire, that's correct.
Okay. That's the reason why
doesn't work like
there's
that,
this
and
we would be drawing it all down if we could. Yeah.
And we wouldn't do that because we're not allowed to.
Yeah. Right. So that's just not the way the grant is designed. That's not the way the government. It's not the way the federal and state government.
That's correct. I would also offer, Chair and Commissioner Jevin Singh, as you all are speaking about this, one of the other takeaways we can look at is the amounts of unfunded mandates. So we do have things that are required, and what dollar amounts do those equate to when we're not even given the funds for that. Again, this core group is being brought together so we could do that deeper analysis as a leadership and executive team.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Commissioner McGuire was going with that, and also this conversation about drawing it down, is that these are essentially like accountability mechanisms that the federal government has already in place.
That's correct.
To ensure that, local governments are using the money as they said that they would.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to name that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's true.
Okay. And we have a snapshot of certain funding within federal fundings within the Health and Wellness Service team, and examples of the funding sources and dollar amounts here. And I have the pleasure of inviting our interim Health and Wellness Service team Deputy County Manager up to talk a little bit more about the cost shifts.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I just have to comment on Commissioner McGuire's question because I can't help myself with the CFO hat on. We do the same thing in Ramsey County, right? We require documentation of payroll expenses, contracts, what did you buy? It's the same if you do a contract for any business that does work with Ramsey County. We ask for that and then we reimburse you. We do some advances. We have an advance policy. The federal government doesn't work the same way. So it's business as usual. Like we submit as we're supposed to every quarter into their portals to try and draw down the money and show that we did exactly what we said we are going to do. So I wish we could just go get the money. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, so I'm here to talk a little bit about the state budget, and that came up a little earlier, and the impact that that is having in addition on, we're in a situation where the federal government is making a lot of changes, and the state government is in a tough financial position where they're looking for money. So the governor's budget, and to some extent, I know this was mentioned, the House and Senate omnibus bills currently have significant cost shifts to the counties across the entire state. So this is, AMC put this together. Some of this information has changed due to interpretation of the actual bill language, but the overall cost shifts that are shown here are the same. The bottom line is the same. So what you're seeing here is this is focused on human services. So cost shifts in our Minnesota Sex Offender Program, in our Disability Waiver Program, in our behavioral health programs are shifting to counties. The cost shares that have been in place previously are now going up or changing in ways that shift costs to counties. And you can see across here, Dakota County, that would be a 7% levy increase. Anoka is 5%. Beltrami would be 9%, and we're at about 4.7% based on the original reading of the language. When I look statewide, the average is 4.8%, and it ranges from like a 2% to all the way up to a 12%. And there are some counties based on the language who've said it could get as high as a 25% levy increase in like a smaller rural county. Really difficult for them. So,
Excuse me.
Yeah, I've seen these numbers before, and I just want some clarification. So this is it to maintain the same dollar amounts of if the cost shifts, that if we remain the same budget levels for these services that cost shifted to us, then this would be the resulting levy that we would have to increase.
Mr.
Correct?
Chair, Commissioners, that is correct.
And then I guess my question is, the taxpayers in my district who I've talked to say, and what are you doing internally to bring those costs down? There must be efficiencies. There must be improvements to services. I'm not saying that these are the questions that we get every day, and I'm just wondering, as we are preparing for these, how much of that work we're doing internally. I'm assuming this is going on all of the time, but more definitely during these times.
So thank you for the question, and it kind of tees up my next slide really well, so thank you for that. Of course, we want to look at how do you change those cost curves? How do you think about how we do this work differently? And I think some people at the state, to be totally fair, would say, hey, we're putting this per county share on because we want you to change your behavior. But the thing is, they have to give us the tools and the levers to be able to change our behavior. And particularly, the largest driver of this is the disability waiver services. Disability waiver services are a Medicaid waiver. They serve many people in our community, from young to older, who have disabilities and need extra care. It is a waiver service that keeps more people in their homes rather than in institutions, and it's been a big program for the state of Minnesota and for the entire country for a long time. So how do you change that cost curve? A county share in this case, we don't have the tools to change how we serve those people. So there was nothing in that bill language to say, oh, the county can change how we do rate assessments. The county can change how we deal with the wait list, how we deal with waiver caps. Nothing changed. So that is why we're starting to have these conversations statewide of, okay, we understand that you have budget pressures. When I look at this, both from my DCM seat and from the CFO seat, these are both, just to level set, these come from the state forecast. And what you see here is the disability waiver spending and the number of people served have increased significantly over time. The waiver caps were removed in 2015, and then they passed a bill called Waiver Reimagine in 2019 that was supposed to do individualized budget, which would kind of try to bend that cost curve and really think about what are the right services at the right time for that individual person. Well, if I were anyone at the state, I'd be like, this is significant growth. So how do we bend that cost curve together? How do we think through that? Right now, the 5%, the governor has a 5% county share on the services with no change in how we do that business. And so we don't really have a lot of levers to change that. But we're at a work group that we're sitting together with AMC, MAXA, county staff, county elected officials from all across the state, not just the metro area, from everywhere across the state, and DHS staff. And we're asking the question, like, okay, we understand. No one wants this continued growth. We have to think about how we do business differently. We have to be, this group in particular is focused on the disability waivers, but it's looking broader than that. How do we work as a team? How do we sit at a table and think about, okay, the county has certain information. We understand how we do some of those programs. DHS has a lot of information. How do they implement the programs? The governor's office has information. AMC and MAXA have been great partners in this. So it's been an excellent work group. DHS has been there listening. And what we're hoping for to try and bend this curve is more time, right? When you change how people are served on such a major program, you need a little more runway to think about, okay, the 5% county share, and both the House and the Senate have positions that are a little different but have a county share on this area. It's just written a little differently. How do we serve those people? We want the same end goal, right? We want to change how we do that for the cost. Like, Minnesotans can't maintain this kind of growth. So how do we do that? So what we're hoping to propose through that work group is an alternative with more time to look at different things to come back, because those mostly go into effect in 2027, and to come to a table and work to come back with a different solution that gives us the tools and levers to serve people differently.
I have Commissioner McMurtry, but before I lose my train of thought, we will, good point on the efficiency part, right? What could we do different that might make the service more efficient and even more effective? But to what extent do we need the cooperation of the state? Because a lot of what we do is dictated by the state and their performance and how they do business. So we need a change at the state level in order for us to become more effective and efficient. And so is that something that's being, I see AMC and MAXA and all of these as being the vehicle to bring those issues, rather than arguing whether we need more money for seniors or not. We need to get some of those issues
Yeah, exactly,
addressed.
Mr. Chair. And that's, DHS is there, and all of us thinking, like, you're exactly right. For example, rate exceptions. So the House, I believe it's the House, it could be the Senate, position is a percentage on rate exceptions. So if you're in the disability waiver program, a provider can request, how it works is a provider requests a rate exception because it's going to take more to serve that individual client. That rate exception is then reviewed by our team. If we deny it, it goes to the state, to DHS, and they approve over 95% of those and take away our denial. So we don't have a lever there. So if you want to put a county share on rate exceptions, totally understand that. But then we need levers to say, hey, how do we fix that system so that when we say we don't think this needs a rate exception, as the county that provides that service and knows those providers, that we have some ability to adjust. So that's the kind of runway we need to have those conversations, to your point, Mr. Chair, with the governor's office, with the legislature, with DHS, to find a pathway where we have some levers to control those costs, which would be better for the whole state.
Garrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just thinking of the fact that we're 4 weeks away from the end of session. So knowing
I'm
that,
sweating right now. Just talking about it.
So knowing that and seeing that you all have this working group, how have conversations been with the governor, with our legislators, when it comes to making our case as to why the proposals that are out there will not be good? And a follow-up to that, out of the 3 proposals, which would you say is the least bad for counties?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, none of them are good. They all have significant costs, but they range from $6 million to $14 million. I pick the $6 million every day of the week, but it's also not a great way to do it. So the conversations have been really good. People are showing up every week. They're taking like half days out of their schedule to show up at this table. But you are right, we're at the end of session. We need to move. And so there's a plan coming together of like, hey, is there a way we can change? Like, give us another year to figure out real change. But we're working through that with the whole group. And I'm not sure where that's going to land yet.
Nina?
So I'm looking at slide 16, the disability waiver services. In the chart, you talks about the growth in people served, and I'm gonna guess that's because of the waiver that was removed, the cap was removed. And like in the time that we are in, where we know that people need more services, that is one of the highest cost drivers that we're seeing in Ramsey County, and to put a cap back on services, what would be anyone can talk about the impact of that on people's lives?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes. I mean, you are right. The caps were removed in 2015. I was at DHS at the time. I think you were in the legislature at the time when we did that. Caps are difficult for so many reasons. Administratively, they're very burdensome. They're very hard on people. Sometimes it just depends on what time of year you come, what county you're in, and how many slots they have remaining or not remaining. And it was a very unequal, inefficient system. I agree. Caps are not great. That being said, we need something to think about how we control growth, including, you have to think about what is the best program for that individual person. Minnesota does have the most generous disability waiver system in the entire country. We spend more than any other state by a lot, multitudes. And so we have to think through what does that mean. But you are absolutely correct. The difficulty is we are serving real people with families who care deeply about those services. I care deeply about those services, but how do we do it in a way that's also, like, I'm always going to be the one that reminds you that every single property taxpayer in the state of Minnesota is going to pay for this if it passes. Every property taxpayer will see an increase if this passes, any one of the bills, the House, the Senate, or the governor's position. And how do we think through that at the same time?
Commissioners.
On that same slide, so all of the questions that I'm asking around efficiencies and being really good stewards of our dollars comes from a place of having been in health and human service delivery for most of my professional career and wanting to make sure that we are being as responsive or good stewards of those dollars to the end of making sure that we're serving our residents. And so the question I have is, with this trend, how much of this is demographics of our aging community versus policy decisions? Because some of that is just the idea of there are more people who need these services rather than an overgenerosity, so to speak, in serving those individuals.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I did not mean to imply we have an overgenerosity. It's just that our program is set up with a really rich benefit set, which benefits a lot of people in our state. It's interesting. I can get you age demographic, but a lot of this is also youth. A lot of the driver are younger people that are driving up how many people are in the programs. As we see, any human can find themselves in a situation where they have a disability at any point in their life. That's different than a lot of other programs, right? And so these programs have been made to serve those folks. And I can return with the actual demographics, but I think you'll be surprised that it is actually the younger people who are driving much of this, including the cost.
How much for the time check here? I have, like to get through the rest of the meeting in 20 minutes.
That is the end of what I have for today. I know County Manager Becker has a couple closeout items.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, so as you can see, we've been pretty hard at work across the organization trying to assess our needs, be proactive, and then I just wanted to take a moment and talk a little bit about supporting the organization as well as some of the looking ahead and next step work we have. So it's been really critical for our executive leadership team to ensure we're modeling calm and steady leadership at a time of much anxiety for our organization, and so that's been something we've been really emphasizing. We're acknowledging the reality of that it's difficult to work in ambiguity and difficult to normalize discomfort, but that is where we are at right now, and so continuing to do the work at hand is really important. And so we get up every day, and while we have some ambiguity, have some discomfort. We focus on our core vision, mission, and goals, which we're very grateful for your commitments in ensuring that those are very clear for our organization. And then ultimately just centering our core purpose, of really the work of the county is it matters. I think it's still important. It's County Government Month, through NACO, we think about the hard work that this organization does and the many people that touch frontline workers or frontline residents. And so that has to be the North Star for our work every day, regardless of all the things happening around us. And so we've done some additional trainings throughout the organization, all the way from executive leaders down to our department directors and throughout the organization, working closely with our HR department to provide some of those. And then in terms of looking ahead, I have a couple pictures here. I know Commissioner Zhang, you and Chief of Staff Sarabia participated in an event through the Eastside Funders. Our nonprofits are feeling this. They need to see us out in the community supporting them and sharing this message as well. So I would say one of our biggest takeaways is, as we continue to monitor and ensure our organizational readiness, knowing that we have all this, these factors of federal and state, we are very committed to supporting our community, our partners. We show up, we share what we have going on, we're sharing our county story. We're doing this transparently at the county board. But also yesterday you saw an email from me that actually went to, thank you to our government relations team. Thank you, Commissioner McGuire and Commissioner Moran, for your leadership on the legislative committee for pushing toward that. But we sent out our first federal response action email to our federal legislators, our state legislators. It was shared with the city administrators, shared with our school board members, asked me for it. So we just really want to make sure that on a regular basis, the people in our community understand the work that we're doing and how we're supporting ourselves, but also the overall ecosystem, because I take you back to that first slide around the indirect impacts and the collateral impacts it's having on our entire community. And so a particular importance of your role as policymakers is to ensure, we're strengthening those connections with the governor's office, also our County Attorney Choi and his connections with the Attorney General. Like we can't emphasize enough, all the layers of everyone doing their part, wherever you have relationships and connections, to be able to share the things that are happening with us. And I know last night, Commissioner Jevon Singh and I were at Mounds View City Council. We shared quite a bit of this information. So our job now is to make sure that everyone understands that we're doing our best in the midst of a lot of change, and that we all need to lean in and do our work a little bit differently. And so to some of your questions, we're really trying to focus on county responsible services and being real good stewards of how we lean into those things, that we are the only ones that are responsible for making sure those things happen in our community, and to build a specific set of budget resiliency efforts along the way as we think about the next couple years. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank all the staff across the organization, particularly, some of the folks that were named, but that federal response action team, they've taken on a lot of work. And ultimately those department directors too, it can be quite settling to get these notices of your funding, is kind of being reviewed or being jeopardized, and everyone sort of has to, show up to respond to that moment. And I think that's the beauty of the infrastructure, is that we don't want to just be in a crisis emergency mode when those things come every day, but we actually want to have some systematic, sort of efficient and actually strategic things so that we can bring hard decisions either to our executive team or also back to you when we have to make those decisions. So, yeah.
Excuse me, I have Commissioner Moran.
So I just want to, we are in really some unprecedented time. It is tough from the federal level that really impacts state, which really impacts counties across this country, right? So I do want to just open up by saying thank you for bringing this presentation back to us, because I would be remiss if I did not know this information. In a year that we are trying to create a budget for Ramsey County, and knowing this information is really important. We've heard several times that, residents want the service, but at the same time, they are stating, how can we not increase the levy, but decrease the levy? What's the possibility of that happening, right? But if they don't know the strains that we are under right now, we have unrealistic expectations, I think. And I think it's really important that what I heard a call out that we need to maybe go and have some town hall meetings with our communities, with our districts, to talk about the impact of what we're seeing happening at the federal level and at the state level that's going to impact their everyday lives, all of our lives, you know. And so having this information is critically important to us because at the end of the day, we are the decision makers here. And we have to create a budget that's going to work. We have to look at a levy, right? And I must say, I'm going to be like, not another dollar, right? We can't increase. But how do we do that and provide service or not provide services? Is where we are. It's difficult. But the information here has been really, really important. So I just want to thank you, County Manager Becker, for bringing this forward, the Chief of Staff, Maria Sarabia, for just taking the time to thoroughly go to that, and for bringing in staff leadership. This is like, I like your model, it's like we're all in. We have to be all in. And we need our partners at the table too, to look at this through a more comprehensive, holistic approach, because this is not just about us, it's about how we're going to do this work and do it efficiently with the dollars that we have or don't have. We're doing that in partnership with our residents too. So just thank you.
Thank you. I have Mary Jo and then Garrison, but I'm going to start making up the time down the road here.
Yeah, I'll just do it brief because I've said a lot of this, but I just want to say thank you so much. This is showing our work. You know, when you do when you're taking a test and everything, they say show your work, and this is so important that everybody sees this. And thank you so much for doing that. You know, we're all out in community, and they're saying, what are you doing internally? Which of course we do. We are in continuous improvement. There's no way we can save enough money to get us out of this budget crisis, but we should look at all the ways that we can do things better, and we do and we will. But they want us to do something internally and externally then, and this is showing what we're doing both ways, that we are looking at ourselves, and we're also, you know, talking to all of our partners at all levels, saying, here's what's going on. You know, they're like, well, can't you talk to the state and feds? They said, we're working, we are on a daily basis, we're talking to them. So thank you for this. This is so important, and it is great that everyone in our community knows that this is the work that's happening. So appreciate it.
Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to echo everything and the thanks to you and the team for putting all this together. Knowing that we are in very uncertain times, and as a county, we're getting it from both the state and the federal government, and that there are not a lot of levers outside of property taxes that we can pull to make sure that we can sustain the demand that we know that's out there from our residents. I also want to, you know, make sure that we're keeping in mind that we're thinking towards the future, knowing that these uncertain times will be with us for, you know, for at least for the next few years. So how can we as a county start thinking of other revenue streams, other ways that we can ensure we're bringing in revenue to meet the needs of our residents that doesn't rely so heavily on property tax? And so just leaving this conversation, I really appreciate the immediate action that you all are taking to meet this moment, but also want to challenge us to think towards the future on how we can continue to grow our economy here as a county and think of other ways outside of property taxes to spur that economic growth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ling. We are now going to have a 3-minute legislative update.
Yeah, but because we've talked so much about it,
We
Mr.
already
Chair,
talked
we've
a
already
lot.
talked. The legislature's back this week, you know, so they're working on this. They're working on the budget that we've been talking about, and they're gonna, you know, most bills are out of committee. They're in either Senate Finance or Ways and Means. The education budget and the House Health bill haven't been released yet, but so they're all working on it, and it's in process, in progress, hopefully progress. And we're concerned about the social services cuts. So we've been talking about that, and we're going to be as a board, you know, our government relations staff is going to start giving us, you know, names of legislators that we can personally connect with. if they're on a committee or if they're someone that's connected to this work, then we want to personally let them know how this is impacting Ramsey County. And so we'll be doing that, and so you'll all be asked to help with that. And just so grateful for this last presentation that we've had. I can talk about the SAVE Act, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, because I know there's been some
3 minutes
media.
are up.
Okay, great. I won't talk about it. If you want to know about it, it requires voters to submit documents, and it would make it harder for people to vote. And so we're working on educating our policymakers about that. So there you go.
Thank you. You got a 3-minute county connection.
Okay, a lot of pressure, Mr. Chair. Okay, I will just be quick. This is National Volunteer Week. I'll just take a moment to thank our thousands of volunteers who help in so many areas. You know where you are, but our parks, our Fix-It clinics, our violence services, there's counties, volunteers in all areas, and so thank you so much for all the work you do. I also want to say that today, the Environmental Center has its Earth Day giveaway for the first 200 folks. It starts at 11 to 6 p.m. We also have an open house there from 6 to 8. And then the last thing I have, and Josh, you better run up here so I can make my 3 minutes. We have a new Director of Community Economic Development. So I will cede my last 30 seconds to Josh being able to say hello.
Oh, yeah.
We know this guy. Get out of here.
Mr. Chair, Board, thank you. I'm not going to take that much time. That's not my style usually, but certainly thank you for the honor. It's truly, I'm deeply humbled by this opportunity. I will say I'm coming up on my 16th year at Ramsey County in just this next month, and I will say that it's this board. It's the team that is around me all day and every day that truly makes this work amazing. And I would be remiss if I didn't have just a quick call outs to certainly County Manager Becker and Deputy County Manager Berg, Deputy County Manager Collins as well. They have been certainly part of my team in terms of giving me incredible leadership, but also mentorship. My entire tenure at Ramsey County, I've definitely had that, including those 3 individuals particularly. So wanted to call that out. I would say all my CED team names, but I know I'm past my time, but thank you very much.
Josh.
Good job.
You're quite right. You've been a person of few words, but you had to pick today to really
It was worth it.
I think it was 29 seconds.
It was worth it.
We're going to go on to outside board and committee. Rena?
I don't have much. Just did a few one-on-ones. Was really happy to sit down with Deputy County Manager O'Neill, workforce to just, when I came on was one of my favorite, it still is. What do we call it, a committee or board to be, a board to be on. Really good to get to meet her one-on-one. Continue to meet with AMC, MASA, MICA around the African American Family Preservation Act. It's a work group to come together as we continue to talk about that, what that needs to look like, and get some conversation going with the legislative process. And spent some time yesterday at the mayor's, St. Paul Mayor Carter's State of the City address.
Okay, I'll be quick too. So the NACO's EELU meeting happened on April 9th, so that they shared with information about Senator Martin Heinrich's priorities, including expanding energy transmission, supporting clean energy jobs, especially in rural areas, and wildlife mitigation. She also emphasized the importance of local engagement and permitting reform, and encouraged counties to share stories about federal staffing impacts, especially in national parks. Paige Morello from NACO gave a federal update on I can't say that word, bonds, okay? Urging members to support NACO's Dear Colleague letter and engage with congressional leaders, and NACO is collaborating with partners like NLC and Public Finance Network. I had attended the Hmong National Development Conference on Wednesday the 16th. I was invited to be one of the many to make opening remarks, which was really great. I brought my kids with me, so that was great to see. And I attended the groundbreaking at the Waldo and toured the Juniper with Commissioner Zhang on Thursday, which was really great to see the development going on in our district that will support our families right here in Maplewood. And lastly, I just want to quickly shout out to Director Lattimore and the entire Housing Stability team for their incredible work during the 2024-2025 warming winter season. They provided an update that their effort provided thousands of our residents with critical shelter and transportation during the harshest months of the year. So I just wanted to shout out them for the great work that they are doing to help our residents. Miu, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrison.
Buckle up. No, I don't have a lot.
I love it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So really quick, Saturday the 12th, I had a chance to attend the North End Community Center opening, grand opening, which was awesome, and then was back there yesterday with a number of our colleagues for the State of the City from Mayor Carter. The North End Center is going to be an amazing addition to the North End community and will play a huge role in its revitalization. The other piece coupled with that, which is a portion that the county is leading on, is Rice Street. I know I've mentioned before that the construction for Rice Street has started. Phase 1, which is going to be from Wheelock Avenue to Nebraska Avenue, has already started and is slated to be completed this August. I had a chance to go out last week to walk the Rice Street, the first phase, and meet with our Public Works team, and honestly got a chance to see firsthand just how amazing their engagement is, especially with local businesses. They were in real time solving issues that some of the businesses that we were meeting with were having with the new construction. So just huge kudos to that entire team for their work. I also had a chance to meet with Generation Next, since I'll be representing Ramsey County on that board. I had a chance to meet with their executive director and their director of partnerships just to learn more about the work that they're doing to close achievement and opportunity gaps in the Twin Cities. So looking forward to more work ahead with them. On Friday the 11th, I was honored to be a part of a panel for the CARE Fellowship through the Citizens League. CARE stands for Child Care Advocates Ready to Emerge. It's a 9-month nonpartisan advocacy cohort for folks in all areas of early childhood education. And I was able to be on this panel with Commissioner Clark from Stearns County, a member of the Hopkins School Board, and former Ramsey County Commissioner Nicole Fretham to speak to the work that Ramsey County has been doing, especially through the Early Childhood Academy. On April 15th, I met with the D10 Community Council Board. This is the district council that represents Como Park, just to update them on what I'm working on, as well as to hear about the things that they are doing in the community and how the county can be more of a partner to the work that they're doing. And then finally, I will end with last Friday, we had the AMC Board of Directors meeting and covered a number of things. I won't highlight all of them, but a few. We did talk extensively about the end of session strategy and the work that AMC is doing. We got an update on the legislative budgets, as well as Medicaid waiver reimagine, in which the board voted to approve a motion that AMC supports the timely implementation of the Medicaid waiver reimagine program, and that AMC opposes any further delays proposed by the legislature. So that was one big takeaway. And the other that we also spoke with is the state county HHS budget work group that's currently in place, just to look through the challenges that we're facing with the current budget, and just getting this group together to get a better sense of a better sense of the focus on short-term and long-term budget solutions for that budget in particular. And then the last thing from AMC that I will plug is the NACO Leadership and Policy Committee appointments. That's coming up pretty soon. The appointments for committee leadership positions, the application for chair and vice chairs of those committees are due on April 30th. So if folks are interested there, we can definitely send a link for you to apply. And then for the NACO Policy Steering Committee appointments, that's something that if you're interested in, you will have to contact Julie Ring with AMC because they are in charge of nominating general members for the different policy steering committees. That's it on my end. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Tara?
I just want to follow up on County Manager Becker's encouragement of us to continue to meet with local providers and our community partners. I had an opportunity to meet with the Consortium of Lake Area Senior Service Providers who had an event with our Ramsey County Aging Service Providers, and it's a wonderful way for organizations to be talking amongst themselves. Had a lot of very candid conversations about how the cuts are impacting our community partners, and just continuing to think of how sometimes our dollars in shoring up our community partners to make sure they weather the storm can help us make sure our community members are served, and that's one way that we can be of support to these services and our community members. I had a chance to be in Arden Hills for the Norwegian Foot March, which was a preparation. It was a Huff March with our armed services. It's a preparation march, but one of the reason why that was really beneficial to me in Arden Hills is to meet with our local VFW volunteers and to remind them how we could be partners at Ramsey County in supporting our veterans and their families as these services and the people who are answering the phone calls are less and less and the wait times are longer, to make sure that we're partnering with those organizations to support those who have served. I want to thank the Mounds View City Council for hosting us last night, and a shout out to Director Latimer and his team as well. There had been an individual that had been living unhoused for a little while, who had really difficult time getting connected through the city for help, and we were able to provide that support, and now that individual is in a new place and doing much better. I also have to share that the Minnesota Landmarks annual meeting is on Thursday, May 8th. This is an in-person meeting, and all of the county board is invited.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The AMC Solid Waste Work Group, if you want to have some hope, there's a great work group working on the role of resource recovery in a fully integrated solid waste system, because we spend a lot of money on our solid waste. So it's great that we're looking at that, and we're sort of leading in that work. So it's a great statewide group. Happy Earth Day, everyone, for today. Also, I know that County Manager Becker mentioned that I have the open house on Thursday. The open house is not tonight; it's Thursday.
No, today is the Earth Day event.
Right. Oh, today's the Earth Day event. And is there an open house tonight as well?
No, Thursday.
Okay, Thursday is the open house, right. So the Earth Day event is today, but then the open house is tonight, is on Thursday from 6 to 8. So that's great. And then just want to give a shout out to all of the, as we're meeting with members of our community, I'm meeting with city council members and mayors of my cities, as well as the entire councils. But it's always great to connect with my local government officials. So thanks.
No report.
Wow.
Well, I'll try and be brief also. First of all, as it was part of my rotation to do the new employee orientation, I got on a little bit earlier and I got to interact. We got a bright group of employees, at least the group I was talking to. So kudos to them and welcome. And I encourage them that if they see any of us walking around in the hallways, the streets, whatever, to say hello. It's just in case you get approached by any of our new employees. I spoke at the Hamlin Business School for a class of business and society. Spoke for at least an hour. It was a really, I've done this throughout the years so many times, and I used to teach at Metro State, and so I'm comfortable in the classroom. But these were a bright group of folks. I was surprised. I shouldn't be, but usually you go and talk to a group of high school, college kids, and you're not getting any mojo, any interaction. And so that was a pleasant surprise. Also, the Highland District Council, I have about 5 district councils in my district. And so I attended Highland the Highland District Council it's the first in my series. I got one about every 2 weeks. But I think the issues that are surfacing, there are a lot of local issues that people are really concerned about. And I'm going to see if that's a common thread throughout the district. Attended the funeral for former judge, Patrick Diamond. I don't know how many of you were familiar with Pat. His kid and my kid went to grammar school together, so I've known him for a long time before he became a judge. And he was a great guy and a true advocate for the folks we are trying to serve. So just wanted to bring him up. Great guy. Attended a meeting with Fairview Health Services. And I know that you had a meeting after me with some of the staff, but I extended to them an invitation to come to us, just like Regents did, mental health being on top of the list, to come and speak to us as a board, so they get to know the whole board. I know that individually some of you might have spoken, but also to take a tour of the new hospital. Just to see how it all fits in. I explained to them that we had met with Regents and really got productive work groups out of that, and Ling has been heading that up and got some really moving on that. And if we could get the same kind of partnerships and at least look at this whole area, together, we might come up with some better answers than we have now. Also met with David Higgins, who's the new director or whatever for the Downtown Economic Development Corporation. And I know he's going to encourage him to go and speak to everybody on this board individually, and he'll make the rounds. But hopefully, it's just one more tool in the toolbox, and hopefully it'll bring some results down the road. Met with the Hispanic Caucus of NACO, had a meeting this week, a 2-hour meeting. Of course, immigration is top of the list and taking a lot of their time and agenda. Encourage them to get focused on Medicaid and Medicare. Besides immigration. Immigration is an important issue, but it's not the only issue, and we need to cover the waterfront as county commissioners. The last thing is, Ling and I attended, this is maybe 10 days ago, but the Violence Reduction Group, Leadership Group, which includes the police chiefs and the county attorneys, and so forth. Again, focusing in on the reducing violence in downtown areas, specific, but along the Green Line and on all transit lines. And I think I'll call it quits there. Broke my own rule.
You did. But that's okay. We like to hear what you're doing. But
okay. Following up is we have 2 workshops. The first one, I believe, is Commissioner Singh. Is that right, or am I got that wrong?
I think
no.
I think it's Commissioner Zhang.
It is
Commissioner Zhang.
Zhang, and the second one is Commissioner Singh. And in between, we have a closed session, executive session. We are adjourned.